I think it's pretty clear we're going to see a pretty big advance in satellite communications that's going to go directly to your cell phone over the next few years. One of the interesting news items over the past week or so is that Apple is investing $1.5 billion in total in its satellite communications partner. So this is as companies like SpaceX and Starlink build out their satellite connections that are built for cell phones, not just the typical Starlinks. You also have AST Space Mobile in this space. They only have 5 satellites up in orbit right now, but that should be expanding pretty quickly. They have partnerships with companies like AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone. But I think this is interesting because now a handset maker is going direct to that satellite company, basically bypassing the telecommunications company in the middle. Apple has a massive balance sheet. It's very possible that they could get their own spectrum and basically create their own cell phone network using satellites. So let's go through what the details are today. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight, but in 5 or 10 years, this could really change the landscape of smartphones. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content, and thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. I'm going to go straight to the SEC filing. I thought this was interesting because Globalstar didn't actually release a press release about this, but they just filed a filing with the SEC, which is a little bit strange in such a big news item. So this is for the filing from Globalstar, and this is what kicked off a massive run in the stock over just the past week. But what they said here is that Globalstar is a party to terms agreements with Apple to develop, launch, and operate a satellite services. So on October 29, 2024, they made amendments for Globalstar to deliver expanded services to customer, that would be Apple, over a new mobile satellite service, MSS, including a new satellite constellation, expanded ground infrastructure, and increased global MSS licensing. Basically, you need the spectrum to be able to reach smartphones, so they're going to need more licensing. The extended MSS network will be owned by Globalstar Licensee LLC. On the funding side of things, Apple is going to be paying prepayments consisting of infrastructure prepayments of up to $1.1 billion, and that will be funded over the construction period on a quarterly basis. The proceeds are going to be used together with proceeds sale of Class B units, I'll get to that in just a second, to pay amounts due for the extended MSS network. Now those Class B units, Apple has also agreed to buy 400,000 Class B units, representing 20% equity interest in the company for $400 million, and that's expected to close this week. Now, Globalstar has been a partner of Apple for a while, but it's really low-level abilities that they have. It's the emergency contacts that you have with iPhones. I believe that started with iPhone 14. Now you can have some limited SMS messages, emojis, short messages, things like that. But these are the typical kind of products, is specific satellite products that they're selling. But this is going to really potentially extend into more smartphones, traditional smartphones that you have in your pocket. Obviously, this is a hardware maker going straight to the satellite company. I think that's where this really gets interesting. And this isn't a complete startup like you have with an AST Space Mobile. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. You can see from this chart here that Globalstar actually has a pretty big business, $227 million in revenue over the past year, is reporting net losses, $44.1 million in net losses. But this is the kind of partnership with Apple that could potentially bring much more revenue in. Remember, that was $1.1 billion in prepayments. Based on the current run rate of the business, that's more than 4 years of revenue. So it's likely that their revenue is going to increase, and getting a prepayment from Apple to fund the network expansion, I think, is going to ultimately be a really good move. Now, the question is, where do we ultimately go from there? One of the big competitors is AST Space Mobile. AST Space Mobile is in a very, very different financial situation. Basically, no revenue coming in right now. The net loss is $145 million over the past year. They also recently just launched their first 5 satellites. So their network is just getting up and running, just getting to the point where they should reach revenue over the next few months. Like I said earlier, they do have those partnerships with companies like Vodafone, Verizon, AT&T. So they do have a way to work with handset makers. But the deal that Apple has outlined here could ultimately kind of break that tie. You take a middleman out of this situation, which is those telecom companies. Now, maybe it's possible that Globalstar would need to license some of that spectrum, but the rumor is that Apple is interested in selling its own satellite service to customers when they buy an iPhone. So you buy an iPhone, you say, hey, I want to add $5 or $10 a month for some satellite capability so that if I'm out of range of a traditional cell phone network, I have the ability to make a phone call, send a text message, maybe even use traditional data. So from a strategic perspective, I think this is really interesting and could actually sort of undermine what AST Space Mobile is building. I know that the thought is that is going to be a superior network, but you've got AST Space Mobile, you have SpaceX building out Starlink, you now have Globalstar. It's very possible that these satellite networks become just like the telecommunications companies where they're spending billions and billions of dollars to build out these networks, and then they don't end up generating all that much profitability because there's so much competition in the space. So I think that's ultimately what's going to keep me from investing in this space. But as a shareholder of a company like Verizon, this is ultimately really concerning that companies, handset makers, are just going to potentially go around a company like Verizon. This potentially undermines Verizon's value to customers and to partners like Apple. Apple has done this before. They really hold the power. That is what customers want to buy. They don't necessarily care whether they're on Verizon's network or AT&T's network or T-Mobile's network. So is this going to be the same case when it comes to satellite, where Apple can just include a satellite service contract with their iPhones, and then that makes the partnership that they have with a company like AST Space Mobile a little bit less attractive? I think that's very possibly the case. But obviously Globalstar responding extremely positively today, and over the past week, AST Space Mobile stock has been on a run as well. Don't be surprised if satellite connections really become a huge topic of conversation over the next few years. The other company that I want to bring into this, because I think they hold a really interesting position, is Garmin. Garmin is the other company that has been using GPS for years, but they don't have a lot of products today that are doing that communication piece back and forth. Is it possible that they can create their own connection where you can do things like send a text message, share your location? I've even said before, maybe they're a company that you can interact with artificial intelligence just from your watch. If you can do that with a satellite connection or with a 5G connection that's coming from your Garmin device, that could be really interesting. That could be a way to move beyond the smartphone. You also have new devices coming like Meta's glasses. Are those going to be a 5G connection, 6G connection, or is that going to be a satellite connection? All of these are really interesting innovations in the space. I think the way to play it is still going to be the hardware companies, because these satellite companies just certainly look a lot like the telecommunications companies of the past. A lot of growth to be had, but not a lot of return on investment. So that's a real challenge for them. Let me know what you think of Apple's latest satellite deal, of AST Space Mobile. Who has the power in satellite telecommunications today? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.